In recent days, top U.S. law enforcement officials, including the FBI director, have warned that there's a potential for a much bigger and much more consequential cyber attack in the near future. It was just yesterday that Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano said our country at some point will face a major cyber event that will have serious effects on our lives, our economy, and the everyday functioning of our society.
So imagine if the lights just went out across the entire country.
Oh my God! Seriously, the power went out and everybody's like panicking. They don't know what to do.
There's reports of blackouts happening all over the East Coast. They're going to New York City. So I don't know. This thing might be bigger than I think it is.
A little panic there, right?
Yeah, no kidding. And it seems awfully familiar. That was a clip from American Blackout, a movie airing this weekend on National Geographic channel. It depicts the aftermath of a colossal blackout caused by a cyber attack on our nation's electrical system. And our next guest says this kind of thing, not just for the movies, it could really happen.
That's right. Eitan Edwards is an expert in disaster preparedness. He also contributed to the film with all of your expertise. So we're certainly glad you're here. We're talking about things from blackouts to cyber attacks. You know, the more we are online, the more susceptible I would assume we are for something like a cyber attack and complete blackout.
Yeah, well, you know, it's because, again, that what's happened is, to a large degree, that individuals now have the ability to kind of like interrupt the system, because it's a very fragile system. And so because everything is connected to the computer networks,
it's hackable.
Hackable, right. It's a computer network that controls everything that we do, and one individual with the right skills and the right situation can produce a tremendous amount of damage. I mean, you don't have to worry so much about nations because we're all intertied economically, so it's not in their best interest to kind of screw us up in that respect. But one person who has the right skills and the right situation can do us a tremendous amount of damage, and they could do something like this.
And we're coming up on the anniversary here in the Northeast of Sandy, which was last year, which, you know, we thought we were prepared, but we weren't at our house. A lot of people weren't, because when you got in your car to go get some gas for your generator, you go to the gas station, they don't have electricity, they can't pump gas. You go to the ATM to get some money, there's no electricity, that means there's no cash.
That's right. And, you know, we've got to, as a society, we as a people, even more so, we've got to accept the responsibility that we've got to take care of us.
Sure.
And we can't really look to government to be this like all-powerful entity
chaotic.
that we've got to do for ourselves, because these things happen and we've got to be able to deal with it when it goes down.
So speaking of which, I think given what happened last year, a lot of people started to try to get prepared, but what do we actually need? I started putting preparedness boxes under the stairs at home, which I'll tweet out later on Facebook and see if anyone has the same things, but what do we need in those boxes?
Well, one of the first things you're going to need is like having an emergency food and emergency water supply.
How much?
Well, I mean, it depends. Obviously, the economic situation is such that some people can't afford to do it.
1 gallon of water per person.
1 gallon of water per person per day is good. I mean, you know, that's a great thing.
A month's supply of canned food.
Yeah, well, a food that you really don't have to cook and prepare, because oftentimes you're not going to have electrical power. You might not even have gas. So you've got to have food that you can actually prepare, especially if you live in a city where you can't use a barbecue grill in your apartment. You can't do these things. And a can opener, obviously, for things like that. So emergency food, emergency water. You want to have emergency radios that you crank with your hands, especially in the cities, for those of us who live in the cities, because you can't find batteries when these kinds of things happen. So a blackout of this size, you need to have the staple items that you'd be able to allow you to support yourself for an extended period of time, and not just at 3 days.
Just like a Boy Scout, you got to be prepared. Eitan, thank you very much. We're going to be watching American Blackout. He also, by the way, is the author of Preparedness Now. Blackout is going to be on Nat Geo this Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
May run along the entire northwest corridor.
So when you look at that, you're saying, well, what are they preparing for? And then you look at what's going on today in the country with regard to DHS and FEMA. There are no less than 8 disaster drills planned between the period of time which started September 25th and goes through November the 13th. I suspect within one of these drills we will see a false flag drill because it follows the old familiar pattern of having a drill and then having the event within the drill, 9/11, the 7/7 bombings, the Boston Marathon bombing, and so forth.
Right.
So this is what I think is coming, guys. I don't think we're going to wait long to see some dramatic shifts in our country.
That's right. Well, to that end, Dave, I want to talk just a little bit about this grid exercise coming up because, as you and I and Rory and Peter all know, Janet Napolitano has been, beating her little propaganda drum, saying that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the grid goes down. There's a 100% chance that the grid will go down, be it from a cyber attack or some other event causing the grid to go down for at least some period of time in this country. And I think it's frightening that somebody who is a New World Order servant like Janet Napolitano would use the language 100% chance. It's a certainty. It's just a matter of when, not if, the grid goes down. So I think it ties into what you're saying about the Grid X exercise or false flag events here in the future ready to unfold, that the powers that be will likely take the grid down, put Americans on their knees overnight.
Let's go forward to the Grid X drill and see how this ties in. If you take down the power, by the third day, people are going to be rioting in the streets, they're going to have no food, and it's going to be absolute and total chaos. Within that false flag event could lie another one. The globalists, I think, may have made the decision to collapse the economy at that point by taking down the banks. And who's going to be caring about how many digits are on your computerized bank account on the third day of a blackout if you do not have food on your table? And if we have the entire grid go down across the country, the cavalry will not come. There's no 911 to call. The police will not respond. People are totally on their own. Now, will they come together? Yes, if we can alert enough people that this could be on the way.
The Grid X exercise coming up, we want to get into that because all of these things that we're seeing in Cyprus, in Panama, in Greece, these things are essentially the model for what I think will eventually come here to our own shores. And that's why we want to rattle the cage, and we want to inform as many people as we can about tangible assets, hard assets, owning some firearms, owning some food and water, owning some food stores, owning precious metals, owning anything tangible that in the event of a false flag economic collapse or a real economic collapse, in the event of a banking holiday or other, you will be able to survive because so many people in this country will be unable to survive because so many people are completely unprepared, Dave.
Well, there is a collapse that's coming. The banks have been preparing for it for over a year now. And if we have the entire grid go down across the country, the cavalry will not come. There's no 911 to call. The police will not respond. People are totally on their own. Now, will they come together? Yes, if we can alert enough people that this could be on the way. So if the event goes ahead and comes to fruition, then people say, well, we know this is coming.